Hey everybody, Chuck Tyler here, Living Beyond Abuse. Today we're going to talk about two really big side effects of being abused, of sexual abuse: low self-esteem and submissive behavior. I've seen a lot of people talk about these things separately, but to me they go hand in hand, just like shame and blame. So these are really common side effects, and they're hard to spot unless you know what you're looking for. So my personal view of my reduced self-worth, my perspective of low self-esteem, came primarily from me not understanding why my father was sexually abusing me. And I talk about why he was sexually abusing me in another video, but for now, it's important to understand that at that time in my life, so young, I didn't understand why. So I had to come up with the reasons myself of why this was happening. At that early age, there's really only one reason you can think of, and that's I must have done something wrong. I deserve it. And that's the root of it. I deserve this kind of treatment. So all during those abusive years, he was teaching me that what I wanted, it didn't matter. That my opinion of what was going on was unimportant. That I was his toy to do whatever he wanted with. And that's what I learned. I was not being given a basic, fundamental level of human respect at that early age. I was being treated as less than human. And that's what I learned. I learned that I was less than human. I learned that I was undeserving. So he did such a good job teaching me these things. The situation itself did such a good job of teaching me these things that I carried it into my adult life. All through my school years, when I was in the Army, when I was in college, and as an adult in relationships and jobs that I had, I was constantly thinking that I was undeserving. I never thought that my opinion mattered. I was constantly asking other people, hey, what do you think I should do here? Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, is this good enough? And I never had the self-esteem to say, you know what, I think this is the way I'm going to do this, or I think this is right. And it was completely disempowering. I would also settle for things. If something happened that wasn't what I wanted, I would just go with it and say, okay, I don't deserve better. And that's really what I was thinking, subconsciously or unconsciously, was that I don't need to change this. If I ordered something online and it came to me and it was wrong or broken, or I ordered something at a restaurant and it wasn't what I wanted, I'd just, go, okay. Instead of saying, you know what, I didn't order this, and I didn't need to be rude about it, but I just didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, and I just didn't think I was deserving of better. So the tools for overcoming this are presence and awareness. You become present, you become aware of what you are doing, you become aware of your behavior. And it takes a little practice, but you get a little momentum going, you get better at it, and all of a sudden you notice, oh, I'm doing that thing again. Well, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that, and that's not me, so you let it go. And you do it bit by bit, over and over again. And when you let something go, you might notice yourself doing it again later. Days later, weeks later, whatever, hours later. But you're aware and you notice it and you go, I'm doing that thing again. I'm not going to do that again. So the more momentum you get with presence and awareness and noticing you're doing this and letting it go, the more you redefine yourself and become the person you want to be. This happened to me. I started noticing these things, and every time I had a behavior that I didn't stand up for myself, or I didn't think my opinion was valuable, or I was asking somebody else on how to do it, I'd stop and go, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. It might be wrong, it might be bad, whatever, I'm going to do it. And I did it. And it never turned out wrong or bad. It's just the way I would do it. And I started to learn the value of my own opinion, the value of my own perspective. It really works. Now, submissiveness goes hand in hand with low self-esteem and reduced self-worth. Being submissive is the way you act when you have low self-esteem or reduced self-worth. And looking back on my life, this is pretty much my entire life up until I hit about 40 years old. I would walk into every situation in life like an employee rather than a boss. I would think that my opinion didn't matter, or what I had to offer wasn't of value, so I would submit to other people's perspectives, other people's wants and desires, the way they wanted to do things. So because I never had a positive father figure in my life, I would seek out and attach myself to older men and make them into surrogate father figures. I did this throughout my whole life. I did it with drill sergeants in basic training. I did it with several of my bosses on the job. And the people I would pick would be abusive men, would be condescending men, would be bullies, would be arrogant, would be narcissistic, because that was my safe place. That was home for me. And I never realized I was doing this. I was doing this subconsciously, but as I look back, I did it throughout my whole life. Many, or most, people who are survivors of childhood sexual abuse have difficulties with relationships with adults. And even as an adult, I found myself still looking at other adults as adults and I'm a child, which was a dynamic that I had to really bring my presence and awareness to go, oh, yeah, I'm doing that. And I would stand up and go, yeah, I'm an adult too. I had to practice this to realize that I was an adult. And that helps you realize that as an adult, your opinion matters. It's another step in realizing that. But I would also habitually do things for other people more than I would do them for myself. I would put other people's importance above mine. And I did it under the guise of being chivalrous or being really nice. I wanted to be a nice guy. And whatever other reason I could come up with to disguise the fact that I just wasn't being assertive or that what I wanted didn't matter. So another great awareness. When you're present and aware, you can start to notice the reasons that you attach to being submissive. And there's different kinds. This is just what I went through. So if you find yourself constantly doing things for other people, more so than what you're doing for yourself, if you're putting other people's needs above your own needs, you're going to get yourself into abusive situations. People are going to be able to spot this and say, oh, that's who he is. Okay, yeah, he'll do that for me. And that's where I found myself. People were constantly abusing my relationship with them. They were not respecting me. So this is where a big tool comes into play, and that is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries lets you know, it's a conversation you're having with yourself to let you know that you care about yourself. That what you need and what you think is important. So you're going to set a boundary to not let somebody else walk all over you. Setting boundaries is awesome. It's easy, it's empowering, and it's actually fun. So we're going to do it right now. As you're sitting there watching this, think about a relationship that you have in your life, whether it's work or family or friend or whomever. And think of somebody who treats you in a way that is less than respectful, maybe even hurtful. Decide right now that you're going to set a boundary for yourself to protect you because you care about yourself. The next time that person says something that's less than respectful or hurtful, you're going to do something about it. You're either going to say something to them, or maybe you'll turn and walk away, or whatever is appropriate for that moment. So play it out in your head a few times, what you'd say, what you'd do. Now this doesn't have to be angry. In fact, it shouldn't be angry. Anger never gets us anywhere. Another important thing is that you don't memorize verbatim what you're going to say, like line for line, like you're reading a script. That never works out. Just go through it several ways in your head, and when the moment happens, speak from your heart. Because after you've worked it out in your head a few times, different scenarios, you'll be in a new perspective. You're going to say, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say something. And then when the moment comes, it'll happen. This is what happened to me once. I had an old army buddy come into town. Haven't seen him in years. And when we were young together, 20 years old in the army, one of his go-to things to say to people was calling them a loser. And he would do it to me. I would see him do it to everybody. It was kind of a go-to phrase for him. So when he came to visit me, he came over to my house with my wife, and we sat down, had a couple drinks, and pretty soon, I knew it was coming. He threw it into conversation. He laughed and said, loser. And I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and I said, hey, you know what? You're going to have to stop calling me a loser. And it wasn't angry. It was just matter of fact. And he was kind of surprised, because that's not the me he used to know. And he said, well, I don't mean it when I say it. I was just kidding. I said, well, if you don't mean it, then why do you say it? And so we got into this little conversation. And finally he said, okay, relax. I'll stop calling you a loser. And that was the end of that. And it was a very simple interaction. I felt more empowered after it happened, and the guy never called me a loser again. Now, I haven't heard from him in many years since that happened. He's never reached out to me to say hi again. So maybe I scared him off. Acting like this, standing up for yourself, and caring about yourself in conversation like this, setting boundaries, acts as a filter. When people realize they can't make these stabbing comments at you, they'll either raise up to be respectful to you, or they'll bounce off of you and go somewhere else. So my advice is not to lament one lost friendship. If they wanted to talk to you like that, then they weren't really your friends anyway. And if they change and come up to your level, then great, they can grow too, and you're growing together, and that's awesome. Using these skills, setting boundaries, presence and awareness, you really start to recognize and are able to change these behaviors in you that aren't you. And it's empowering. So thank you all so much for watching. I totally appreciate all of you. If you're enjoying these videos, if you're finding value in them, please help me by hitting subscribe and like, and share them with somebody who you think can get value from them as well. If you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, please put them in the comments section, or reach out to me on my website at chucktyler.com. We can have a more private conversation there about things that you don't want to put in a public comment section. So thanks again, have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next video.